Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from The Federalist once again. This is dated August 16th. It says Democrats are lying to themselves about why their party is collapsing. Of course they are, and here's a picture of Kamala. She looks like she's about to do a certain type of salute. That's bad. I was told that was bad, Kamala. No, don't. It says Democrats now find themselves in an approval death spiral because their strategy invariably emphasizes style over substance. And part of it too, and I'm sure the article is going to go into it, I haven't read it yet, but all the 80-20 issues of things or sides, they're picking the 20 every time, and they wonder why nobody likes us. It's like, because you guys stand for everything that nobody likes. The far left has taken over your party. That's the problem. So it's been 2 weeks since American Eagle brought sexy back to American advertising, and the left is still grappling with how to deal with Sydney Sweeney. And I did a video on that from the time I'm recording this would have been up, or the time you're hearing this, I should say, should be up a few days ago if you want to check that out too. So last Friday, Biden White House functionary Rob Flaherty joined the fray with an op-ed in Politico entitled "The Sydney Sweeney Saga Shows Why Republicans Keep Winning." As in his opening paragraphs, he laments the stupidity of the radical left's insane reaction to the ad campaign, while admitting that Democrats keep losing the culture war, and with it, the narrative war that inevitably shapes who wins election. So I know who this guy is, and he's typical Democrat type person. We're just not going to give credit to Republicans for anything, but it seems like he is here, and, well, he's kind of right to do so. So I suppose Flaherty should be commended for admitting the culture war is ongoing instead of calling it phony, like more prominent members of his party. Sadly, there is little else praiseworthy in his diatribe. In his willful blindness, Flaherty chooses to blame his party's woes on the media ecosystem we're all trapped in, rather than the massive elephant in the room, his party's lack of credibility with the American people. Yeah, it's the media. The media who's all on your side, by the way. So I guess I gave that guy a little too much credit. I spoke too soon. It says, look in the mirror first. It says, Flaherty shares some guilt in destroying that credibility. Although he's only a minor character in Original Sin, Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's better late than never expose of the cover-up surrounding Biden's mental degeneration, Flaherty's role as director of digital strategy for the administration put him squarely on the front lines of this conspiracy. In the 2020 campaign, Flaherty was responsible for countering Republican misinformation about Biden's verbal stumbles by successfully blasting a targeted audience with images of Biden looking stronger and more assertive in order to quell doubts about his age, the book details. As deputy campaign manager during the bad times after Biden's catastrophic debate in 2024, he felt the need to push back against the news media and the Democrats' bedwetting brigade and argue that Biden was the strongest Democrat to take on Trump. In short, it was Flaherty's job to convince an increasingly skeptical public that their emperor wasn't strutting naked before them, and he didn't do too well in that, if you ask me, and probably a lot of people. As he continued as Minister of Illusions when he jumped ship to become part of Kamala Harris's doomed presidential campaign. Though he claims in the op-ed to have soul search about why Harris lost, it's obvious why she lost. She was a moron. That's all you need to do. She was an idiot. He was either too cowardly or too brainwashed to admit what the majority of Americans, including his colleagues in Biden's inner circle, know. Harris was a disastrous DEI hire for vice president who was undemocratically foisted upon the Democrat Party faithful and is simply not up to the job of leading the free world. That's a much more expounded upon version of what I said, but that's actually true as well. It says ignoring reality is a poor strategy. Instead, Flaherty falls back on a Democratic boilerplate explanation. Their defeat came from a failure to properly leverage new digital communication models. In a classic leftist move, he blames the lack of effective messengers rather than the message itself, despite his party's continuing dominance of the legacy media landscape. Flaherty's description of the right's media-to-politics pipeline regarding the Sweeney ads is accurate, but he doesn't understand what made that pipeline effective in the first place. The left's knee-jerk hatred of anything that pleases ordinary Americans. It says, yes, the criticism of American Eagle began among a few hyper-online lefty TikTokers, but this group is now the cornerstone of the Democrat base, and Republicans know it. Having completely lost its grip on the working class and seeing its race-based coalition slipping away, the Democrats continue to rely more and more on the energy of its radical fringes, which is why social media influencers masquerading as legislators are now considered leaders in the party. The very existence of social starlets like AOC and Jasmine Crockett reveals Democrats' reliance on social media and the superficial approach to leadership it created. And the fact that those two are seen as leaders is just if those two are seen as leaders, you got a problem. You got to find actual leaders. As Flaherty fails to grapple with these facts, apparently preferring to believe progressivism is only one viral clip away from redemption. That clip, he argues, could have been a recent Instagram post from a Nebraska Republican and dog mom who seems to be giving the Nancy salute, But Democrats didn't have the tools to make this slander stick, so you knew it would have been slander. And you don't see lawsuits over this stuff either. And if they were going to do that to whoever that Nebraska Republican is, I don't know. And it's linked right there under Instagram post in the orange. You can see it right there if you want to go ahead and click on it. And I do not have an Instagram. I've never had an Instagram. I will never have an Instagram. But yeah, I'm just wondering why, like, if they do that, like, can't you sue them for that? Because like obviously that person's not a Nazi. Can we knock that shit off? Because he has forgotten the weeks of discussion among corporate media figures prompted by a similar gesture from Elon Musk in January. Did that hate-fueled fever dream produce any political benefits for his fellow Democrats? The answer to that is no. Because the truth is more prosaic. The Instagram post had no resonance because Democrats have accused Republicans, especially Trump supporters, of being Nazis so loudly and for so long that no one takes these accusations seriously except for the hyper-online lefty TikTokers that create them. That's what happens when you take words that have a certain meaning and use it in a way that it doesn't actually mean, is that people finally glom onto that fact and they go, what the hell are you talking about? You're stupid. We're going to ignore you now. As the right's reaction to the comments about Sidney Sweetie being a Nazi, on the other hand, went viral precisely because it further confirmed to a much larger and saner audience that the Trump-hating left is incapable of self-reflection and improvement, and that certainly seems to be the case with what's going on here. It says the definition of insanity. It says Flaherty cannot rationally accept Americans to believe the people who spent years lying to them about Trump being a Russian asset and COVID-19 coming from a Chinese wet market. But he continues to convince himself that he and his allies deserve their trust. We're going to lie to, what he's saying is that we're going to just lie to you continuously, but you should trust us. That's basically what he's saying there. So at the end of his op-ed, he laughably advises his leftist friends to treat politics not as the slicing and dicing of issues, but as the formation of perceptions, as if the Democrats haven't been trafficking in fantasy instead of reality for years, which is correct, as the party now finds itself in an approval death spiral because this strategy invariably emphasizes style over substance. As Flaherty wants his party to imitate the Republican machine that shows, not tells, people a story about cultural values. But such imitations ring hollow because they stem from a place of dishonesty, a denial of what is happening before the audience's eyes. That is 100% correct. It says Trump didn't need to show voters a story. They saw the story every time they filled up at the gas pump, went to the grocery store, watched leftist violence on the evening news, and heard about men dominating in women's sports. What Trump offers aren't narratives, but solutions. He's winning because he gives a story of Democrat malfeasance a happy ending. It's not that hard, and it's not that hard to do. Just do what the people want. Like it says up here. Let me go back. It says, bring down the gas prices, the grocery store prices, put people in jail for committing crimes, and get men out of women's sports. I was about to say women out of men's sports, but I was like, wait a minute, what? So yeah, that's it. It says in his inaugural podcast, which apparently he has enough time to do as governor of the largest populated state in the union, says Governor Gavin Newsom asked Charlie Kirk what advice he had for Democrats in the wake of Trump's victory. Kirk bluntly responded, "Get better ideas, Governor." Says unless party insiders like Rob Flaherty take this advice seriously and stop lying to themselves and everyone else about why they are losing, they will continue to lose in both the culture wars and the political debates that stem from them, and that is the end. Yeah, I think that's pretty well said there. So what do you think about this? Let me know in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.